what the difference was for me is that basically an exorcism movie usually is almost like a cop movie, right? There is a case, and now the cop comes in, the profiler or whatever, and pretty analytically tries to solve it, wins or loses, but that's it. There's no personal attachment, and because of that, the stakes aren't necessarily that high.
Hello?
Be careful. Once you know the devil knows you.
Your background.
Yeah, it's very festive. You know, I got a little bit of everything. It's pretty busy back there.
That's right.
But you got to keep it in the mood. Before we get to the movie, I got to tell you something. So 8 years ago, I was starting out in this industry and I had no idea what I was doing. And I remember my editor at the time's like, "You're going to do an interview." And I'm like, I have no idea how to interview people. I've never done it. The guy's name was Daniel Stamm in my first interview for a movie called 13 Sins.
No.
It was a phone interview. Daniel, you were the first interview I ever done in this industry. And it was and I remember, and I credit you so much with me being in this career, actually, to this point, because we had such a great conversation and you made me feel comfortable. You gave me confidence about being able to speak someone. We talked about the World Cup. I remember it was in Brazil at the time coming up, and about the German team. And man, hundreds of interviews later, with some of the biggest celebrities in the world. And here we go again. But man,
you have me in tears in a minute. That's amazing. That's incredible. Thank you so much, man.
Oh man, I'm glad it was you. I really do, because had it gone with someone else and I didn't have that great kind of conversation that we had, and it gave me confidence that I've been breezing through for the past 8 years with. So
oh, that's incredible. We need more time for this interview. Marie, we need to add 20 minutes to this man's time for this interview. That's insane. That's awesome.
And it's so cool to see you face to face, because there was a phoner, I remember.
Which I hate. I'm terrified of phoners and not seeing whom I'm talking to. Even with this, I'm like, it's got to be Zoom, even if we're not recording the visuals, but I need to see whom I'm talking to. So it's funny you're saying that was a phone interview.
Yeah.
Of all things. Cool.
It was so good. And man, I didn't know what I was doing. I don't know if I still know, but man, I've done this a lot since. So
it means a lot. That really means a lot.
8 years later, I'm so happy to talk to you. And I've been following your career and work since, and man, this was an amazing movie. I mean, you've done The Last Exorcism, so you know kind of the genre, and you've done it before, but I think this is easily a top 5 Exorcist kind of movie of all time.
Wow. You are my favorite interviewer ever on so many levels, mister.
I'll keep that close to my heart. What I loved about this movie, Daniel, is like, not only do you have a great sense for the genre, I know that in horror, we talked about 13 Sins back then, and you did the Exorcism movie before, but this was such a modern, we don't see that many kind of modern exorcism movies, and I felt this was so current and contemporary, and the Sister Anne character felt like so real and relatable, like a real person, not like a nun that you can relate to. And I mean, aside from the scares and twists and turns, I think this was so well cast with Jacqueline. I mean, I could turn this on mute and literally know what's happening in this movie because of her facials constantly.
I'll tell her that. That is an amazing way of putting it. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Man, did this feel natural to you right away when you got this script? Because it seemed like it was clicking on all cylinders as I'm watching this.
It's funny, what you put your finger on is exactly what my experience was reading the script, that I was like, oh, there's something different going on here. What is it? And I know now what it is. It is that our writer, Robert Zappia, is a practicing Catholic. So there is a little bit of a treatment of the church that is not as dismissal as you usually would be, and as one-dimensional, where it's like, all right, they're stuck in the Middle Ages, they're screaming their same Bible verses, but Robert sat down with a friend of his who is a deacon, who put him in touch with a real exorcist. And this whole movie comes from the dinner that he had with that exorcist, basically. So everything that is in the movie right now is all real. You don't have to make up any of this. The Vatican did open up all these exorcism schools in 2018 all over the world, the right, all that. And the first script, the first draft that I read was just so full of information that I didn't do a speck of research after that. But it was just like, we have everything we need in here. It's a church that is true to its roots, but is also not stupid. And of course, they're using technology.
Right.
You know,
I love that too. The electronics and everything, the cards to get into the rooms. I don't see that because like most of these exorcism movies are kind of stuck in the old ages in a sense. It just feels not relatable. It's even though it's current times, but it feels like it's in Stone Ages sort of thing. This is like a modern world with modern people with real issues going on and real, you know, also problems that they've dealt with here, you know, with these characters. They all have sort of, you know, personal stuff that they're dealing with, you know, that's very kind of, unfortunately, in some of this case, it's real to society.
Yeah. What the difference was for me is that basically an exorcism movie usually is almost like a cop movie, right? There is a case, and now the cop comes in, the profiler or whatever, and pretty analytically tries to solve it, wins or loses, but that's it. There's no personal attachment, and because of that, the stakes aren't necessarily that high. Whereas this is more of a thriller rather than a cop movie, where there is a lot of personal involvement. There's a lot of backstory, and that's why the stakes couldn't be higher from the beginning. And the advantage is that also gives you more story time to dig into that character, because what's happening is actually related to your character. Usually it's like either or. Are you talking about what's happening right now, or are you losing time on backstory? Here they both go together, you know. And then, yeah, I mean, Jackie is an actress unlike any that I've ever worked with before. Absolutely incredible.
She was made for this role. I know, like Marie and Team Click asked me like, oh, what's her reaction? I'm like, this woman was made for this role, because like, I can't envision another actress after seeing it.
Jim, the thing is that she is so good that the next movie she does could be, she is a secret agent in Colombia, and you would say she is made for that role. She will be feeling made for that role no matter what she does in the decades to come. Her talent is limitless. She could do
it's so
anything.
expressive. The facials are amazing in this film. Like I said, I could turn it on silent and mute, and I know what's going on, because she just portrays it and emotes it through her face in such an unbelievable way that it's difficult for actors to do, and I don't see that much in movies.
It's impossible. And what's so valuable about that, I always have the feeling the strongest moment you can give an audience is that they look into a character's face and think they have just discovered something that might not have been discovered by everyone, because that's how we live life, right? We are in a conversation with someone and we go like, oh, I just felt a tinge of jealousy, but that doesn't mean that 5 other people that also are in the conversation process the same thing. It's something where it's almost like totally different, but like with rock bands, it's one thing to like Bon Jovi, but the rest of the world has also discovered Bon Jovi. What about that little indie garage band that no one knows? You feel so protective of that. And you're like, I discovered that my life brought me here. If I hadn't lived my life exactly the way I did, I would never have discovered this band. And it's the same with moments in actors to me. And Jackie does that. Her level of subtlety compared to her clarity is in such perfect balance that she completely communicates what needs to be communicated in this moment, while giving the audience the feeling they discovered it and not everybody else might have. It's amazing.
It really is. And you know, you mentioned kind of the detective investigative thing. I felt like what I liked about it, there's some of that in here too, but it's the Sister Anne character doing it. It's not an outside person. It's the people who are in the thick of it are doing the investigative work and kind of educating themselves on what's happening. I thought it was like a smart twist to it too, because it's like they are going through this experience or learning about it, but they're also investigating themselves, you know? So it's an all-encompassing experience for them.
Yeah. And again, it's a balanced thing, because the theory that I think is right is always like the audience is only going to be as scared as the protagonist is. So on the one hand, you want a strong female protagonist, a female icon, all that. But that can't be expressed by, oh, she is not afraid because she's such a badass. It has to be she is terrified because she's the only one who actually has come face to face in the depth that she has in this institution. She's more terrified than anyone else, but she can keep that internalized, and she expresses it enough that we feel it. But I saw Jackie 2 days ago in Toronto, and we were talking about it. She's basically has the position of a scream queen in a horror movie, and yet that character would never scream. She doesn't scream once.
It's so subtle,
right?
It's so everyone's freaking out around her. There's so much paranoia, and she's decomposing everything and making it kind of silencing the situation.
But you feel it, right? You almost feel like she has been screaming for 20 years.
Yes.
She is screamed out, she transforms that into a rage and an anger, so that her entire badassness is fueled by her original vulnerability. And that to me was just an amazing thing to play with. And that's something that Jackie immediately hooked into and that informed the entire character for her.
Hey, I know we got to run, and I hate that we don't have more time, but World Cup's coming up again. We seem to talk around the World Cup every time. What do you think about Germany this time? Last time we talked, they ended up winning. So that was good omen for that. But how do you like them now?
It's funny because I haven't followed soccer at all. And now my 6-year-old daughter has just started playing soccer.
Oh,
so now it's all about women's soccer. So I can't tell you anything about the male team. I'll have to watch it. What do you think? Where is Germany?
I think they're an interesting point because it's a mix of the veterans who are kind of now at their last probably national team thing from the 80 years ago from that World Cup team, and a new blood mixing it together with a new head coach too that's brand new with different ideas. I think it's one of those teams where they can really surprise. They're not going to be the favorites coming into it, but they can surprise and get really far.
Jimmy, you can tell that stuff that it reads like a pitch for a thriller. I'm like, that is a movie right there. New head coach, new ideas, the old guard, the new guard. Very good.
You can make it happen.
Yeah.
Daniel, I'm so happy we got a chance to talk. This has been a long time coming, and I'm really proud of this film, and I can't wait what's next for you. I know there's some things coming up too, and we need to talk sooner. I can't wait 8 years again.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jim. Good seeing you.
Oh, you too, Daniel. Talk
Good luck,
soon.
man.
Awesome work.